No, we need to, we're not flowing over this 91,000 unread emails like that. You have to deal with that. Well, can you just let somebody else do it for you? But I would gladly take over your email account for an entire weekend and clear that out, and then you'll feel so much less stress. No, I don't think she cares, and that's why. Well, I care. I literally go, morning I go through this thing every night at bed. Like, I stand there, I'm about to get in bed, and I grab my phone, and I do this stuff, and he goes, why do you have to do this phone stuff before you get into bed? And I'm like, because I can't go to bed knowing there's notifications on the show. I have to clear them all out. It would drive me. I just now, this morning, responded to as many messages as I could that I got yesterday, because I can't stand knowing someone didn't get a response back. You know, Dan, how does that not bother you?
Yeah. Also, thanks in advance, not passive aggressive to me.
No.
For our last conversation, it sounds like business to me.
We already talked about it. He's just reminding you, she or who.
Circling back means exactly what it means. We talked about this, and we said we'd come back to it. We're circling back. As per my last email, does sound like you're not getting my point.
Right,
As
but
per my
also,
last email, I see which one.
but also, if someone has to say that, you clearly needed to hear it. Because why am I repeating myself?
Well, isn't as per my last email almost the same as friendly reminder?
Yeah, but just not as friendly.
Yeah.
Right.
As promised and as discussed are the
I don't think as discussed is. Noted was the only one, and that's a stretch.
Yes.
Noted was the only one
One
that,
word answer.
yeah.
Okay.
Reader's Digest, what? Read that?
This report is sponsored by Taco Bell.
Good morning. Things still look pretty good on the main roads and freeways. Also, useful crash 71 southbound from Davison that marks the right lane. And 696 westbound after Defender, the 3 left lanes are blocked there. I'm Heather Foster with traffic.
Taco Bell has $2 grilled chicken burritos that come in 2 bold flavors: Chipotle Ranch and Salsa Verde. Diversity with grilled chicken and delicious sauces. Get your $2 grilled chicken burrito at participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only. While supplies last, prices participation varies by texture.
Doing good. Sig. Good. What?
Yeah.
29131 Telegraph Road. I'm putting it in right now.
But if you want your little missy to feel like this, try Prestibacin. Prestibacin actively rebuilds tooth and stimulate the teeth by remineralizing the enamel. Just so Prest, the #1 toothpaste brand in America.
I see. I got it. I got it. I see. I see. I don't know. Nothing has been found, so it'll just leave it like that. Cool? I don't know.
Shuttle on the ticket. It is the Stoney and Jansen program. Jim Costa sitting all week for John. Ladies and gentlemen, as we usually do on Mondays, but because Monday was a holiday, we decided to postpone this to today. And we are so fortunate.
I see.
Quick lane ambassador with us right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, he represents the MAC, and Bowling Green couldn't get it done against Jerry Kill's New Mexico State Aggies. He is the one, the only TJ Lang. Good morning. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. How are you?
Yeah, thank you guys. How was Christmas?
It was on a plane for me. It was okay.
On a plane?
Yes, absolutely.
Coming back from?
Florida.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah.
No delays either, which is
no
a real
delays,
stunner.
which is incredible.
Yeah, no, that's it was a wild weekend. I know we had to leave, Thursday.
I know.
To go down to Carolina just because the weather on Friday was going to be horrendous.
So I saw some pictures on social media. You and Kozlowski, you going to be on his pit crew? Or
Yeah, we were working on it, man. That was pretty cool. Going down there, and Brad obviously is a huge Lions fan, being from Rochester. He gave us, my goodness, I think it was about a 3-hour tour. I mean, you could see how they build these cars from scratch.
Uh-huh.
It's insane. It's nuts. And when you think about racing, it's just like, oh, you drive a car, you know, you got to change the tire. It's like, oh,
Just
my
turn
God.
left a whole bunch.
Right.
A crew of like hundreds of people that go into that. It was awesome though. It was great of Brad to, you know, be generous and let us into his world a little bit. And he came and joined us a little bit on the pregame show Saturday, and you know, he's just a huge Lions fan, so that was pretty cool.
Were you as caught off guard as
Oh,
we
I
were?
see.
Like I talked to Dan
I see,
Bonfair
too.
yesterday, Dan Miller, and you could hear it in his calls, like just how surprising that was. We felt like we were past that kind of Lions performance.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I was surprised. Costa, remember last week when I was in here with you and John, and you know, weird things happen in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to get up and have a great performance week after week after week after week. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to do that. And this was a game that kind of, you know, worried me a little bit, just in terms of how long can you keep this up for? You know what I mean? The 6 out of the last 7 games, you're playing great football. You may be playing, arguably, maybe a little bit better than what you should be playing based off the talent that you have. How long is that going to be sustainable? I think every team is due for a stinker at some point. You know, the only problem is with this team, you're not the Chiefs, you're not the Bills, you're not the Eagles. You can't afford this at this point of the season based off how you started the season. So, but you know what? I mean, when you look at the totality of the last 2 months of football, you know, 6-2.
Right.
I mean, you know, digging yourself out of a grave. Does that loss against Carolina take away from all that? I don't think it does.
No, no, it's not the loss. It's just what surprised me was that they were gashed so much by their running game when you knew that's all they could do was run. And the Lions' running game, actually, it's not a one-game thing. With that offensive line, and look, as Dan Campbell told us earlier today, it's not all the offensive line, it's not all the running, it's a whole cumulative. The Lions' running game, which was so good earlier in the season, has really been stuck in neutral for the most part, and they couldn't stop the run.
Yeah, and I look at the run game and I say, you know what, like, sometimes when you have
blinker
a
on
whole
with
week
your
to
brain.
prepare, coaches sometimes outthink themselves. You know what I mean? What did the Steelers do that was really good against Carolina?
Going the
Let's start
Queen
doing
Bee's
that.
way,
You
huh?
start to, in a sense, game plan for the other team too much rather than just say, look, this is our bread and butter. This is what we do. Let's make them stop what we do. You know what I mean? Rather, as opposed to, well, we're going to change everything and do what they're bad at. You know what? Like, do what you do. Like, go to your bread and butter. You know, if you're a counter, you know, pin and pull type team, and that's how you gas, go stick with that. You know, don't start just running all these kind of zones and inside outside zone because, you know, it had worked in the past again. And throw that in, but don't lose sight of, you know, what you're good at, right? And I think that there's a sense sometimes where coaches tend to outsmart themselves a little bit. I've just been, and I heard a little bit of coach this morning too, and like these tight ends got to start doing something in the run game. You know what I mean? Like they just have to be better. I mean, watching a little bit of the film last night and this morning, like I thought the offensive line was good enough. Every pretty much loss, you know, tackle for loss that has gone against this team in the past couple weeks has been from a tight end just, you know, getting his ass kicked and not cutting a guy off, not sealing a guy, not getting inside when, you know, you got to cut the backside out, whatever it is. They've got to pick it up. They've got to be better because they rely on their tight ends a lot to block. You don't want to start going into, you know, oh, we'll just go 4 wide and, you know, 5 blockers versus 6 and try to figure. No, you need these tight ends to pick it up. That's your bread and butter. That's who you are. So they've got to be better, I think. Look, there's a couple plays even there in the running backs, you know, like the hole's there, hit it, like just go, you know, stop thinking so much, stop trying to make, you know, that extra second, third cut and try to make an explosive play. And Swift he's had one just every game where it's like, dude, it's a counter to the right. Why are you bouncing all the way back to the left? That's when you're getting, you know, the tackles for loss. That's when your linemen are getting the holding calls because they're expecting you to be way outside here. Oh, what's he doing over there? My hands are out of position. My feet are out of position. You're not prepared for that. So everything just, you know, as a whole right now is just off. And that game, you know, offensively was, look, that turnover obviously swung the momentum of that game. You got a chance to go up at least 10-7, if not 14-7. And after that, you know, they could just never grab it back. Carolina goes and scores 24 straight, and you just can't play that type of game. Not only against Carolina, you can't play that type of game against anybody in the NFL.
It's a shame because of that play, and Ragnow took responsibility because Goff has been so good with the football lately. And I
Yeah.
thought Goff played pretty damn well on Saturday, too, all things considered.
I thought he did too. I mean,
He threw
you
the
know,
ball away when he had to. He didn't make stupid plays.
silly decisions. I mean, he wasn't trying to really force anything. You know, I wish they could have gotten the ball downfield a little bit more. I mean, they hit the big chunk to Chark there early in the game, and after that was like, okay, like, go back to it. You know, just keep them honest, make them play deep. That's going to open up everything underneath. But I thought for the most part, he played well. I thought he played well enough to win the game. Question that I had was at the end was, why is he still in? Like, he was taking some shots at the end, and it's a 3-score game. You're looking at it, and you're like, that field is hard. I mean, it's like concrete. Like, I don't want his head bouncing off the turf. I don't want, people taking... And look, they had back-to-back roughing the passer penalties. Like, at that point, defensive linemen are going to take liberties on it.
Right.
It's a 3-score game. Oh, wow, so care. We'll give him 15 more yards with 40 seconds left. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I know maybe there was a discussion. I just know that Goff is that type of dude that, he's a tough dude. And I guarantee you, they thought about putting Sudfeld in, and I guarantee you Goff was probably the one that's like, no, I'm not coming out of this game. Like, you're not, like, as long as my guys are out there, I'm not coming out. I just thought that was something, just nitpicky coaching, where it's like, just kind of at that point, you realize how big these next 2 weeks are. Worst case scenario, it's already been a bad day. The only way you can make it worse is by getting somebody injured, right? And that was, from my point of view, was like, I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see him go tough it out and take 3 or 4 big hits.
Taking over my nitpicking role that I usually have.
Well, so I asked Coach about the turf. Like, what was the deal with the field? No one's using it as an excuse for why they lost.
The Panthers complained about it for the whole season.
And both teams played on it, but, like, explain to people, you talked on the pregame, like, it was like cement concrete.
It was rock hard. I mean, it was rock. And I know it was cold, and they said down in, Charlotte that was the coldest game they've ever played. So I don't think they've had experience with how cold it is and how that's going to affect turf. But normally turf is soft, right? You have that rubber filling. You have at least a couple inches of that, right? So even if the very bottom layer is firm, you usually have a little bit of padding where you can figure out, hey, what cleats am I going to wear? Oh, it's a little bit softer, or maybe it's a little firmer. But that was literally, I mean, guys were stomping their foot on the ground, and it sounded like somebody was, pounding on a desk, or it was just like, what the, my goodness, I've never seen it. And I was watching guys out there in pregame, literally, I mean, there were probably 15 guys out there early. 14 of them were slipping all over the place. And I was kind of, you try to talk to them, you're like, what's the deal? What's going on? What shoes you're going to wear? And they're like, I have no idea. Like, I've never played on this before, And it was, for me, it was more of a concern, and I didn't want to say it on air to jinx anything, but I was more concerned with the injury factor. I was more concerned about guys slamming their head into that thing
Queen
and
Bee
getting slamming a knee
so-
or an elbow,
so
whatever
long,
it was. And
long time.
you could even tell. I mean, you could tell if you watch that game, anytime, Amon-Ra got the ball, I mean, as soon as there was contact, he just kind of slid. Like, he didn't want to get slammed into that. You know what I mean? And that's, like you said, it's not an excuse, but I think, hey, when you're, in that zone, when you're going through your routine and you go out there and you're just ready for the game and you're juiced up, adrenaline's going, and all of a sudden, oh, now I got to worry about the field. That's just an extra, distraction that you got to think about. Did that affect them? I don't know. You mean you have to ask the players, but for me, it was a concern because, I played on the Silverdome back in the day and a couple high school games. I mean, it was about as similar as that. And there was one player that came to me and said, I don't know how this field is legal, right? And even before the game, they had heaters out on the field. They were trying to thaw it out. It did kind of, as the game went on, it warmed up a little bit and got a little better. But it was, I'm glad that I'm not using it as an excuse to why they got, blown out like that. I'm just glad there were no serious injuries, because that was my concern.
Well, because of what's still at stake, and we want to talk more about that coming up next. If you guys missed the conversation with Dan Campbell, we're going to play that at 9:35, so stick around. It's 97.1. 97.1, The Ticket. Traffic.
From the WWJ 24-hour traffic center, brought to you by Flame Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical. 696 westbound just after DeQuinder. There's an accident involving a semi that is causing big delays in that area. Only the right lane is open. And that's traffic.
Merry Christmas. Gary Morowski, President, Flame Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical. Winter is here. Make sure your home heating system is safe. Flame now offers $99 furnace safety inspection. Only from Flame, now until December 31. Flame since 1949. Flame, the greatest in the universe.
Experience the thrills of Fight Night with Ariel Helwani and BetMGM. Just log on to your account today and receive an Ariel Helwani Parlay Boost token for the fight at
Your
Madison
ring
Square
looks just
Garden
like
on November
Papa
12th. Just add a parlay wager on the MMA Showdown to your bet slip to activate the token. Your parlay must have at least 4 legs and a maximum stake of $100.
Further
Your boosted
down
wager
is the
hits,
one that
you'll
you
boost
bought.
your winnings by 20%. Log into your BetMGM Sports account, and you'll automatically
Yeah, I
receive
thought
this
it was
parlay
your
boost token.
telegraph
Go for the
in the
knockout
parlay.
with the king of sportsbooks. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Michigan only. Existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance.
I don't know if you
Problem?
ever did.
Call
Hold on.
1-800-270-7117
I'm
for
gonna
confidential help.
double check.
Excludes Michigan disassociated person.
Hey Detroit, this is Tanya Lalonde from Lalonde Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and it doesn't matter if you've been
I'm
bad
gonna
or
have
good,
to double
naughty or
check.
nice, because everybody gets our very best price. Plus, we'll take any trade in any
Yeah,
condition,
I better
even
check
if you're
again.
over mileage, still owe thousands, or have months left to pay. Is your credit
Yep.
on the naughty list? That's okay. Lalonde's letting
Yeah,
lenders to get you
possibly.
approved. So come see me, Tanya Lalonde, today during the big finish sales event at the
1991
all-new
South
Lalonde Chrysler
Telegraph.
Dodge Jeep Ram in beautiful Inlay City, Michigan,
Yeah.
or click LaLondeChrysler.com.
Negative equity financed in new loan. Subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
That's the one we want.
Ensure your child has
Telegraph
a
and
healthy
Square
heart
Lake.
with 97 The Ticket Student Heart Check. Schedule a student heart check or get information about upcoming student heart checks at the Max and Deborah Ernst Heart Center. Call 888-683-7678. Sponsored by Priority Health.
Here's to Prilosec OTC. Without Prilosec, I wouldn't be able to enjoy all this yummy holiday food. Speaking of, whoever made that apple pie, delicious. I just take 1 pill each morning and 0 heartburn all day. So cheers to Prilosec OTC. Ooh, are those jalapeno poppers?
Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid that can cause heartburn, so you can enjoy the holidays. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Wireless headphones. That'll be $200.
I'll use my Capital One Quicksilver card.
Now that's a hit. You used the Capital One Quicksilver card, which makes you the hero of every purchase. With Quicksilver, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere.
I wanted running music, but unlimited 1.5% cash back is pretty heroic.
Good instincts. Every hero needs a theme song. The Capital One Quicksilver card.
I'm 100% sure it's on the right side.
CapitalOne.com for details. Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. So you ordered a new air filter for your
sure
car.
it's on the
You
right
try to
side.
install it, but it doesn't fit. So you take a little bit off the sides. What still doesn't fit? Well, you could try to sit on it. Or just go to eBay Motors and get it right the first time. With over 122 million parts, they have the parts that fit your vehicle. Air filters, tires, headlights, brakes, and more. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors, let's ride.
Hi, I'm your unused PTO. It's almost the end of the year, and if you don't put me on a timesheet, I will be gone forever. Use me or lose me. Let's get away.
It's getaway time. Get our best deals of the season on a new Hyundai. It's your journey. Own every mile at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Now get 0% APR, 0 payments for 90 days, and $500 bonus cash on select vehicles. Hurry to your local Hyundai dealer now during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Offer ends 1/3/23. Call 1-562-314-4603 for complete offer details.
97.1 The Ticket, 2022 winner of the National Association of Broadcasters Marconi Radio Award for Sports Station of the Year. It's Michigan versus TCU week on Stoney and Jensen. Brought to you by Hungry Howie's and Sarah Whalen Chevrolet.
TJ Lang is with us. We're from Dan Campbell coming up around 9:35. Do want to get to some ticket texts that we got before TJ came on, talking about Aaron Rodgers. We had a caller saying the Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl. And we had another caller saying that he's a Lion fan, but he wants Rodgers to defeat the Lions in Lambeau because he likes Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, here we go.
What?
Yeah,
He said he was a Lions fan?
Yes.
Bizarre.
The Lions defense looks so completely
robbed for
horrible
this?
this last weekend. It appeared to be a schematic situation, almost as if the Panthers figured out their defense and we didn't adjust properly. We'll get to TJ has his reasons for that coming up in a second. Aaron Glenn is no match for Aaron Rodgers, in Lambeau especially, he said. This reminds me of Stafford's years, once shut out in Carolina by an ex-XFL quarterback. Another year had to win one of 3 last games, get in the playoffs, and lose all 3. With Packers again last game. Lions are dead, SOL alive and kicking. And Justin says you cannot be a Lion fan and love Aaron Rodgers. True Lion fans want to see the Packers go 0-17 every year.
Now, for TJ, are you rooting for Aaron? Like, you obviously played with him.
I mean, if I had to pick, like, the last game, I want the Lions to.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What, do I root for Aaron Rodgers? You know, if we're completely out of it and he's got a chance, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not against it, but at the same time, like, I want the Lions success first. Packers have had all their success.
Yes.
They had 3 straight years of 13-3 and Super Bowl and NFC Championship. It's just like, it's our turn now. I want a little bit of, some of that over here.
What do you think, though, about Rodgers is handling this completely different than nearly any athlete would over the last 3 weeks in terms of after every game he is laying out the scenarios, like in his post-game interviews. Like on Christmas Day in his post-game, he said, well, we got 2 dome teams coming up here. Kind of just talking, filtering a little smack. Well, and he said, he said the week before, well, we're going to, warm Miami. Well, it wasn't that warm, but it was still warmer. But he's been talking, he's been owning it. And he's kind of trying to, like, will him, not only himself, but his team into thinking, yes, this can still happen. That's like, how would you take that if you're versus the typical, oh, we're playing for next week, we're the robotic answer?
I think it was, as a player, I think with Aaron, he was always kind of the calming factor, like we had the year 2016, we started 4-6, and that was the famous relax, right? And we went out and won every game, and we ended up losing the NFC Championship game. But as a player, there's 2 ways you can go. You can either put all the pressure on yourself and say, my God, we got to win these last 2 if we want to get in. Or, if you're a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it's like, hey, you never know. I mean, hey, we're going to play our game. If it happens, great. You know what I mean? Like, he's always kind of that flip side that I think, but it's contagious in the locker room. Because then it starts getting guys to think the same way that he does.
Well, now
if he's out there panicking and freaking, right, and that might be a better strategy, right? I mean, it's worked for him in the past.
You guys see Jair Alexander's post-game interview? What he said? It was just awesome. Just the way he just saw how happy he was, and the confidence. You can see
it's a real thing.
The way they stole that game with the 3 picks against 2. It's man, if the Lions can go up there and beat that, like that's an SOL exorcism.
Well, that's something like I think Campbell was kind of alluding to. Even when I talked to him after the game, it's like, we could be looking back, how are we going to turn this into a positive, right? We could be looking back a couple weeks from now and be grateful that we just got our ass kicked, because that turned, hey, man, that really turned it on, that's where, things started to turn for us. But no, I'm with you. I think, with Aaron, he just has that certain demeanor that is always, instead of putting too much pressure or making things too big, it's always the opposite. It's always, hey, let's just see what happens.
See, from a Lions
go out there,
fan,
have fun, play the game, and see what happens.
As a Lions fan,
Sunday was a bad day for football. I'm sorry. This was fun, but the Packers winning, it was like, oh, here we go.
And the Rams
is just like, my God, come on.
You might need the Rams, though.
You might need the Rams to beat Seattle. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The defense, first 2 plays of the game, they just gash him for like 60 yards total. The numbers were ridiculous. It seems so, I don't know, easy for us to sit here and say, well, just put 7-8 in the box. That's all Carolina does. Make Sam Darnold beat you. And they didn't. Was it schematic or was it just players not
I'm sure this is it.
Oh, they tried. I mean, they tried. Earlier in that game, you could see probably on the second series, 8-9 guys in the box. And guys just not making plays. I mean, when I look at the film, I didn't see anything really schematically that was like, what are they doing? Why are you doing that? It was just, no, defensive line wasn't getting off blocks. I thought the linebackers, I thought the second-level players had a very, very poor game. I thought that they were running themselves into blocks. They were running themselves out of plays. It was almost reverting back to, the first 7 weeks where it was hero ball, where every play, I got to make every play instead of trusting your teammates. No, I'm going to hold my gap. I'm going to, hey, if you guys are back, I'm going to take it. there was just way too much everybody trying to do it themselves. And I thought that they got bullied. I did. I mean, that Carolina set the tone early that, they were pushing them around, and even after the whistle, giving the extra shoves, you know what I mean, just to get in their head a little bit. And I thought that affected them. And I thought that they missed Deshaun Elliott. I think that he has been really, really underrated the last couple months as far as run support. I mean, he's been consistently at the top of the list, when it comes to tackling. I just didn't think that Melifonwu and Joseph had the same impact. And look, I thought that I don't mean to pile on, but Jeff Okudah, that was a completely uncharacteristic game from him.
That's why he got benched.
He usually, in the run game, it's read, react, downhill, boom, make a tackle. He just looked lost. He was playing way too deep, even on the first touchdown, the little pitch option. I mean, he's playing almost in the end zone, and at some point, you read, run, you come up and support, and he just never does. And it's like, I don't know what's going on, man. This is weird. Like, they're doing things that you thought that they got rid of, right, back in November. Like, why are these still showing up? And that, to me, was a concern. But I thought that, look, I think the defensive line wasn't great, but I thought the second level defense was bad. Now, Carolina runs the ball 43 times. Your two middle linebackers have 10 total tackles. Like, that's just not good. That's just awful. That's not good. Anytime you're two safety, and Kirby Joseph was second and Jeff Okudah was third with 6. But you know what I mean? Like, if you're getting up to the third level every single run, that's really, really bad.
Well, it's
really bad.
We talk like yards after contact. This was yards before contact.
My God, just nobody touching it. It's like you're hoping that, Joseph on 3 or 4 of them, you're like, I hope he makes the tackle, because that guy's gone. I mean, they're going 25 yards untouched. It's just, they had a lot of bad habits early in the season. I thought they got rid of them, but unfortunately they showed up again, and it showed. I mean, they got whooped.
I used the word relapse. Kind of felt like they relapsed. Like we thought we were past this, ahead of this. They had made these adjustments and corrections. TJ, 2 more games, guaranteed. Do you think that's like a sign of concern for these next 2? We know Chicago can run. We know Green Bay wants to run. Or do you feel like that's one game, it's not going to be a harbinger of things to come?
I'm leaning more towards I believe they're going to get it fixed, only because what we saw the previous 7 games, I felt like that's who they are, right? And like we said, every team is going to have a bad day at the office. Every team's going to have a stinker. Where I think this team is different is I think they can recover from that, right? I think they can rebound from that. I think that they've shown the last 8 games that, they're a team that mental toughness, right? That's a big thing. How can you respond after something bad happens to you? Now, you didn't do it in the game Sunday or Saturday, but how are you going to do it this week? And the majority of the past, after the Buffalo game, I think that was a situation, we lost another close, heartbreaking game. Right. That's where we've seen in the past, it leads into 2, leads into 3, leads into 4, right? It didn't. They turned around, they went back to work, they got it fixed. So that gives me hope that, this game was the anomaly out of the last 8.
Well,
that's not who they are.
Well, the opposites happen. They lose 1, and then they win 3 in a row. And then they lose 1, and then they win another 3 in a row.
Exactly.
So if anything, it's been the opposite. It hasn't been a sulking and a piling on. It's like it kind of
and I don't think that's
them up.
And I don't think that's by accident. No. I do think that's who they are.
We talked about Jameson Williams with Dan Campbell as well. Do you think there's a problem here? Do you think he doesn't know the plays? Whatever? Why are they using him so infrequently?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. It just, like, you could give the guy a jet sweep that's
tunnel screen,
pretty easy, or a little tunnel screen, or just a quick pass, get the ball in his hands, and just, hey, let's see what he's got. I don't know what the issue is there. Maybe there's a weird dynamic sometimes between quarterbacks and receivers that, look, Goff just has better chemistry with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got better chemistry with Chark and Reynolds and Khalif Raheem. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to throw another piece in there and potentially throw that chemistry off? Like, those are concerns from a player and from a coaching standpoint. But, from our standpoint, it's like, I mean, we get that. We're not asking you to give him 15, 20 targets a game, but can you get the ball in his hands a little bit? Like just a couple plays? Hey, maybe early in the game we're going to run a jet sweep, and then we're going to motion the rest of the game off of that, and there's so many other things you can do. I just don't know if there's a trust issue going right now. I don't know if that the coaches just had a plan, and hey, each week we're going to give him a couple more routes. We're getting a couple more plays. We're going to bring him in slow. Like, I don't know if that's the plan and they're just sticking to it. I don't know if there's any underlying issues there as to why he's not making an impact in the game. But this would be the week I would hope. It's like, okay, it's been, a month now? Like, we got to start seeing something. You know what I mean? This isn't a fifth-round pick that you want to get integrated. Like, this is your guy, right? I think that at some point, and all of us maybe selfishly, we got the new toy. It's Christmas. Hey, we want to go play with it, right? We want to see what we got. But coaching, sometimes they have a plan, and sometimes they just stick to it.
I want to ask you something non-Lions related. To another concussion. You went through concussions. Do you think that he should be done for the year? And I mean, if so, he's going to have to make a decision about his career. That's 3 this season already.
Yeah. Every concussion's different. Right. I mean, and hearing McDaniels talk yesterday, he said, we had no idea. After the game he was fine. During the game he was fine. He kind of came in.
Where's the spotter?
Like it just popped. Well, that's what I'm saying is that sometimes you can have these delayed symptoms. And that's what it sounds like happened with Tua, because everything that's coming out of Miami is like, he was fine. Like, he didn't bring anything up. We didn't see anything. He came in, yesterday, and through the post-game physical check with the doctors, maybe a couple symptoms pop. I don't know if they're